Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, tens of thousands of Congolese civilians pour out of the eastern border town of Bunagana after it's reportedly taken over by M23 rebels. The military blames Rwanda. The capture is a major setback for the army, which had said it had the upper hand over the militants. Also, Britain's Court of Appeal throws out campaigners' bid to stop the first flight taking refugees from the UK to Rwanda. That's now scheduled to take off on Tuesday. Rights campaigners say they're worried that some migrants could be returned to danger in their countries of origin once in East Africa. And over 1,000 villagers in Cameroon have been sleeping outside, often during heavy rains, after their homes were suddenly torn down last month. Authorities still haven't found them places to stay after granting the land to a private investor who's planning on building a 5-star hotel. But first, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where M23 rebels have reportedly captured the eastern town of Bunagana on the Ugandan border. Congolese soldiers allegedly provided limited resistance a day after saying that they had the insurgents on the run. The violence has forced at least 30,000 people to flee the area. The militaries blamed Rwanda for the takeover. Clément Bonneau has the latest.
According to civil society groups, clashes erupted early on Sunday along the border between DR Congo and Uganda. The Congolese army was able to repel several attacks by M23 rebels, but the violence intensified after nightfall, forcing the army to retreat into the strategic town of Bunagana, which is a major cross-border trade point. Early on Monday, the rebels attacked Bunagana and the Congolese army fled. In a statement, the army says that Rwandan troops were directly involved in the takeover of Bunagana. Meanwhile, some civil society leaders say that Uganda may have also provided support. The past few weeks have seen increased clashes between the Congolese army and M23 rebels, a militia which had been largely dormant since its defeat in 2013. DR Congo accuses Rwanda of backing the group as it has in the past, while Kigali says the Congolese army is cooperating with the FDLR, a Rwandan armed group which includes former members of the militias that carried out the 1994 genocide against Tutsis. The recent tensions have drawn worried reactions from the international community. The African Union on Monday calling on Rwanda and DR Congo to prioritize ongoing talks in Nairobi, as well as mediation efforts led by Angolan President João Lourenço. Meanwhile, the spokesman for the UN Secretary-General on Saturday calling for an immediate ceasefire and condemning the use of proxies.
Clément Bonneau there for us. Now, the first flight deporting asylum seekers from the UK to Rwanda is due to go ahead on Tuesday with less than a dozen people on board. The removals are on track to happen after, on Monday, judges in London rejected a last-ditch bid by human rights groups to stop the flight. The UN refugee agencies described the plan as catastrophic and raised concerns about the conditions under which refugees currently live in Rwanda. Shirley Sitman has more.
The opposition to Britain's plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda wasn't strong enough to stop it. The Court of Appeal rejected a new attempt to have the flight cancelled. Meanwhile, activists challenging deportations case by case failed to convince the High Court. London and Kigali have agreed on a deal under which asylum seekers who arrive illegally in the UK can be sent to Rwanda to stay in hotels like this while their cases are examined. In exchange, the UK has paid Rwanda nearly $150 million and is expected to pay more depending on how many people it deports. Asylum seekers fleeing war and persecution are safe in Rwanda, but activists are concerned some may one day be sent back to their home countries. The UN refugee body says the plan sets a dangerous precedent.
There are countries taking in millions of refugees. I'm not talking about the Ukrainians, I'm talking about countries in Africa. What am I going to tell them if they say, you know, a rich country like the UK is sending them abroad? I'll do the same.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson repeated on Monday his goal is to stop human trafficking.
This is about making sure that we break the business model of criminal gangs who are not only risking people's lives, but undermining public confidence in legal migration.
The UN replied there are many ways to save people risking their lives. Deporting them is not a solution.
In Burkina Faso, the government says that armed extremists killed at least 55 people in a raid in the north over the weekend. Other local sources put the death toll from the attack in Sitenga district on Saturday night at over 100. The suspects targeted men and reportedly spared women and children. About 3,000 people have fled the area. No one's yet claimed responsibility. Over the last 2 years, around 5,000 people have died in the country from mounting violence from Islamist insurgents. On Monday, French troops handed a military base back to Malian forces ahead of a full withdrawal from the country at the end of the summer. France has offered to continue offering air support from outside Mali to UN MINUSMA peacekeepers still there, but Bamako has rejected this. MINUSMA's mandate is due to come to an end at the end of this month, but the exit of French troops has made the mission even more precarious.
It's the deadliest peacekeeping mission in the world, and whether it will be able to continue its operations hinges on the UN's decision to renew its mandate. MINUSMA was established in Mali in 2013 to stabilize the country, and today employs some 15,000 blue helmets and police officers. But even so, the mission has faced increasing challenges in recent years. Its scope of action has been reduced by the ruling junta, who imposed a vast no-fly zone in the country in January, complicating UN operations. The perilous mission also faces high security risks in the region, especially in the north of the country, the stronghold of many armed jihadist groups. Already, more than 150 MINUSMA personnel have been killed, a situation only made worse in recent months by the gradual withdrawal of the French military. This Monday, French troops made their departure from Menaka, a dangerous region that the junta in power does not control.
The Malian state controls 15% of its territory today, 10% from the north and 21% from the center. These are very alarming figures.
MINUSMA is requesting a one-year renewal of its mandate to continue operations in Mali.
At least 30 wedding guests were kidnapped by gunmen in northwest Nigeria over the weekend. The victims were returning to Gusau in Zamfara state when one of the buses carrying them broke down on Saturday. They were then attacked and taken. It's the latest in a surge of mass abductions in the region. Nigeria set a national record by beating Sao Tome and Principe 10-0 in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifier on Monday. It's the Super Eagles' biggest victory in international soccer. Napoli striker Victor Osimhen delivered 4 goals at the game in Agadir, Morocco. Nigeria is now top of Group A after 2 of 6 games and is on track to qualify for the 2023 African Cup in Ivory Coast. Over 1,000 people in Douala are still homeless after their homes were destroyed in May to make way for the construction of a 5-star hotel. The victims, most of whom are indigenous people, have been holding peaceful protests ever since, denouncing what they say was their illegal, forcible eviction from their village. Our correspondent in Cameroon sent us this report.
A mountain of debris and a partially destroyed tomb is all that is left of this community in Douala. It was once home to over 1,000 people. Residents say that on May 14, they were shocked to awake to the sound of bulldozers. Authorities ordered the demolition to evict inhabitants after the state leased the site to a private investor who plans on building a 5-star hotel here. Over 70 families have been settled here for about 50 years now. 47-year-old Etienne has lived here since 1975, but today, the father of 2 has been forced to live outside. He has nowhere else to go.
They didn't relocate us somewhere before they demolished our houses. They came to a village and destroyed everything. I have nowhere to go. After more than 47 years, where do I go now?
Etienne is among hundreds of residents of Dikolo Bali who say they have been illegally evicted from their land despite having land titles and acts of ownership.
It was our father's land.
A few meters from the site, dozens of victims led by Charles Mokori Bell have been holding weekly meetings since the forced eviction. They are fighting for the restitution of their land.
This is not a life anymore. We sleep on the floor, and it rains on us. We are treated like wild animals. Are we Cameroonian citizens? Have we sinned to be born in this place?
In Yaoundé, 300 kilometers away, we find the leaseholder in his office. Olivier Chinwako says he acquired the land legally.
Of the 63 families who were evicted, 45 families approved the declaration themselves. They approved the convention that was signed between the chiefs and the project owner. The local residents received 2 forms of compensation.
Authorities have set up an ad hoc committee to find a lasting solution to the case, which is also tainted by allegations of corruption and embezzlement. In Cameroon, land conflicts make up 80% of legal disputes.
And the 10th year of the Awak Art Festival finally wrapped up in Morocco over the weekend. Performers and fans of the traditional music and dance of the country's southeast came together in Ouarzazate for the artistic extravaganza. Most of the music on offer was from the Amazigh or Berber people, and it was a welcome return of the celebration, as it was the first time it was held after a 3-year pause because of course, the pandemic. Well, that, though, is all we have time for. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.